wanted to talk today about the Phalacronotus catfish, known under the common name giant Siamese glass catfish. The first time I ever saw them was at Predatory Fins at Rodrigo's 2 years ago in 2021, just before Rodrigo left for New York. So I bought 5 of his last Phalacronotus. I mean, when he brought them, he thought it was the Belladonichthys, the toothy one, the blue sheath catfish, but these turn out to be Phalacronotus, much less toothier, but predators nevertheless. They're kind of semi-translucent. You can see inside the head and a little bit through the body. Perhaps if I had a better lighting you could see better inside of them, but anyhow, we have 3 left out of the 5. One of them died for no good reason. One of them was adopted, or rather bought, by a peer, Douglas from Naples. So we have 3 left. So they've been with us. Today is December 2023, and I bought them in I think November 2021. So they've been 2 years with us. We bought them at about, I want to say, 4 to 5 inches. Other than at Rodrigo's Predatory Fins, I've never seen them offered anywhere else. What can I tell about them? They're rather a shy fish, timid. They're definitely predatory. They kind of remind me of the Shilbe catfish. I think but they're from the genus of Siluridae. I'm sorry, Siluridae. But they remind me of the grass cutter Shilbidae catfish, with their very long joint fin on the bottom. Not joint, I'm sorry, this is their anal fin, which has a ton of rays in them. They have a good sized mouth for their body, and they can swallow a large piece of fish. They also took pellets for me as well, no problem. But as far as interactions with the tank mates, they're rather usually on the receiving end of any kind of harassment or problematic behavior. One prominent example is they've been with this tank, the 240-gallon tank, for a long time. Since this is their second tank. And for a long time I couldn't tell who was bothering them, because they stopped eating and their tails and other fins bore the marks of nipping and were redacted and significantly trimmed. It took me a long time to figure out that it was the Dokinsia barb, probably mascara, the full-grown single barb that was housed here with them. And he or she was the one that was bothering him, bothering all 3 of them quite a bit. Well, back then we probably had 4 of them. So ever since took the Dokinsia out of here, the damage stopped and they started eating quite well. They weren't eating for several months while this was going on, or at least not much. I'm not sure of the exact species. Phalacronotus bleekerii or Phalacronotus apagon. Dr. Viktor J told me that I need to compare the tooth patches inside the mouth. It's very hard to tell them apart using external features. From the size of it, I think they're likely bleekerii, because bleekerii only grow to about 2 feet, while apagon is much bigger, grows to 4 feet in the wild. But to be sure, I should have dissected, or at least, compared looked at the tooth patches in the one that died. But I don't know what happened or why it slipped my mind. I forgot to examine its tooth patches. So that still left me unsure. People that also like them, peers, tell me that these are likely bleekerii. So, but I will remain unsure until and unless I, again, compare their tooth patches. There is several tooth patches deep inside the catfish mouth. And apagon and bleekerii are told apart by different shape of those paired tooth patches. They have relatively big eyes, as you can see, and excellent vision. They're vision-oriented predators. As such, it's logical that you see their whiskers as thin and short, because their eyes are important. For the catfish, which can live just fine without the eyes, they usually rely on long and strong barbels. Their behavior, I wouldn't say it ever changes. They just hover like that off the bottom. Sometimes they sit on the bottom all day long, here and there, just moving around, but they never bother anybody. And as I said, they're usually on the receiving end from any aggression, so that's why I think they're timid catfish. And I forgot who was bothering them in the prior tank, but somebody was bothering them too. It's actually can be looked up in our Monster Fish Keepers thread. I'm sure I documented it there. I should have read it before shooting this video too. But I just wanted to show you the barb, the Dickensia barb that was bothering them. There he is in the back with a fish-like spot by the tail. Looks like a mascara barb to me. Maybe filamentosum or filament barb. But this innocent looking barb, being housed alone and therefore slightly stressed, was relieving its stress by harassing and biting nipping the fins of the glass catfish, because they're timid and they didn't answer back. And it chose them, the barb chose those catfish as the target, I guess because everybody else would not have it. Alright. So that's a little story on the giant Siamese glass catfish. I mean, they're from the same, they're not Cryptopteris, the very common glass catfish that many people can buy at almost any local fish shop. Those are small growing, much more transparent Cryptopteris species, while these guys are Phalacronotus. Starts with PH. P-H-A-L-A Cronotus. They have this interesting body shape, lacking. They don't have any dorsal or adipose fin at all, and their shoulder is very steep behind the back. They're one of those fish that their face is compressed in the up and down direction, but their body is compressed from left to right. So they have this interesting body shape that's compressed in two different directions. They're not really hiders, not that much, but you can see that sometimes they lay in between the decorations, sometimes they just get around. I haven't noticed that they need to hide. So they can hover in the open, especially if there's like plants or driftwood around. That makes them more comfortable. You see how they're using their tail to sort of roll their tail to move backwards. I haven't noticed much of the undulation by the bottom fin to move backwards. Mostly they use their tail for moving around. But many fish that have such a long and slender rear half, you can see some resemblance to Wells catfish and Chinese Wells catfish. They often use their long, flexible rear half to sort of move backwards. But I started saying that some fish use their undulating fin to move back and forth, like the knife fish, for sure, legless knife, clown knife. I thought this would do the same, but I'm not really caught it yet. I think bowfin does the same thing. The American fish, Amidae. Well, anyhow, that's our little story on this interesting and rare catfish in our hobby.